Brandon's basketball and the St. George rec. On the way home from St. George, Brandon was approximately 14 at the time. We'd gone down there with the guard dogs, and we were playing in competition, AAU type competition basketball tournaments. Like there again, he was about 8th grade-ish, 14-ish, and we had our sleeping bags in the back of the car, the truck, or the van, whatever we were driving. I don't really even recall right now what we were driving. I think we might have been driving the van, and we got up to around Cedar City, just north of Cedar City by maybe Parowan. I'm not sure exactly the location, but it was north of Cedar City a ways, in between Beaver and Cedar City. And suddenly, as we were driving, I saw like 30 cars on the southbound I-15 that were parked along the freeway. On the right side of the right side of I-15 northbound, there were 15, 20, 30 cars parked there. There might have been more or less, I'm not sure. But there was a van, a white van that was flipped over. Maybe it could have been gray, but anyway, I'm like, oh my heck, Brandon, what should we do here? So we pull up, and there's a bunch of men, and they're trying to get a car they're checking out this car, and then there's this lady laying out on I-15 right there on the edge of the road right next to the sagebrush area, and she looked like she was 74 years old, 75 years old, and she was dead. And then there was another girl inside the van hanging upside down with it hanging in her seatbelt. And then over in the sagebrush a little bit earlier than that, maybe 50 yards this way, there was a mother holding a baby that had been flipped out of the car. I guess this baby was, come to find out later on, the child was a little bit handicapped, and the child was 3. But there were some baby bottles in there and diapers and stuff, and we were looking for another baby, but we couldn't find another baby in that area in the medium. But as I walked up on the wreck, I said, Brandon, come and help. We started to, I looked at the one lady, and she had passed away, and the other girl that was in the car upside down, she was hanging upside down in the seatbelt. And she looked like she was like 30 years old. I don't know. She just looked like she was 30 years old. And so eventually 5 or 10 men turned the van. Well, actually, I don't even think they turned the van. We got the seatbelt undone or cut, and we pulled the girl out. And I immediately started giving her CPR. But as I blocked her nose and I started giving her CPR, breathing mouth to mouth, you could hear her lungs. They were punctured, and the air was coming out through her lungs. And the other men didn't do anything. I guess they just knew she was dead. But I told Brandon, I says, go grab the blanket, the sleeping bag, and put it over the little child, the little child that was there. They come to find out this child was handicapped. There was not another child there. It was only one child. But in that wreck, the child lived, and the child, I guess, was like 3 or 4, maybe 5, but I think 3 or 4. And the mother was the one that I thought was 70 years old, 75 years old. She was only like 34 years old. And the daughter was like 12 or 14, the one that I was giving mouth to mouth to. And so it was kind of a traumatic experience. But what I've learned from that is, if there's something going on, quickly act. Try to help those who are in need by getting a sleeping bag, by looking for the child, by giving mouth to mouth, by CPR. Anyway, that was an experience that Brandon and I had coming home from St. George after the basketball tournament down there. And what had happened is that lady was in a hurry. She was coming home from a dancing tournament, and she was in a hurry. She's going like 80 or 90 miles an hour and got over into the left-hand side on the fast lane. She got a little bit too far over, and that grabbed her. That dirt grabbed her and forced her down into the medium and then into the sagebrush center area, and she had rolled over and flipped out of the car and died, and her daughter had died behind her. And then the baby, because the baby flew out of the vehicle, was I believe life-flighted to Primary Children's Hospital and did survive. I did call the father eventually, maybe 2 to 4 weeks later, and told him what happened at the wreck and the scene, and he was still very broken up about losing his wife and his daughter. So anyway, it always pays to drive safely and carefully.